Hello, this is Truman. We are in Lessons in Personal Evangelism. Today's lessons is the importance of following the impressions of the Holy Spirit. We are co-laborers with Christ in evangelism. And so don't discount when God puts a thought in your mind. Now, sometimes the thoughts are our thoughts. Sometimes they're fanatical thoughts. Sometimes they're the enemy's thoughts. But sometimes God gives you an impression, and we must be willing to discern, Lord, is that you leading me by your Spirit? It was 1974, and I was out in a new development, and I was sharing Jesus from house to house. The response was not good at all. I spent hours trying to share Christ, trying to introduce our church, trying to give someone a gospel tract, trying to share my personal testimony, trying to get into a testimony of sharing the gospel. But it was seemingly a difficult day. And in my mind, I was praying. I said, Lord, I'm going home. No one wants to hear about you today. I'm just going to go home. So in discouragement, I got in my car and I was driving home. It was kind of late in the afternoon and the traffic was getting congested and heavy. And I remember I was going down this street and to enter a main thoroughfare. And at the red light, cars were backing up. And as I was waiting for the light to turn, cars in front of me, cars behind me, out of my peripheral vision to my left, I noticed what seemed to be a tricycle and a bicycle, a child's tricycle and bicycle, something like that. And followed by a strong impression, go to that door. And it was a complex of 7 apartments. And this apartment was toward the back. Go to that door. Well, my response was, I said, Lord, no one wants to hear about you today, and that just must be me. That's not you. But the impression came again, very strongly, go to that door. And I began to debate with myself, well, there's cars behind me, in front of me, I'm going to have to pull off the street, I've got to make a U-turn, and then a third time, go to that door. And so I said to myself, well, I'm going to go to that door and no other door. And I was thinking, that's just me. But I went to the door, and what I did not know was that the couple in the apartment was having a conversation that God heard and I did not hear. And this was their conversation. They were Catholics, longtime Catholics, and feeling empty and feeling like they needed to search for something new and they needed to find Jesus and find a new church. And so they were discussing the possibility of finding a new church. And so as they're having that discussion, I come to that door and I knock on the door. And to the door comes Gary. And I introduce myself. I'm Truman Herring. I'm the pastor of the Baptist church that's just starting here in the community. I was driving by and I saw the tricycle and the bicycle. And I was strongly impressed that God wanted me to come by and introduce myself and share Jesus with you. Now, I was very bold in that moment. And they said, come in. They invited me in. Do you know that God had prepared their hearts? Now, there's a lot more to it, but long story. Both Gary and Roberta would give their heart to Jesus. And do you know that those children, that one of those children would also later give his heart to Christ and become a pastor of a large church now in Kentucky? Another one of those boys would also become a Christian minister and laborer for Christ. So my point is this, that impression, I couldn't definitely say it was me or the Lord, but it turned out to be, it was the Lord impressing me to go to that door because He saw their discussion, He saw their hearts were seeking Him. So don't discount the impressions, especially when the Lord impresses you to pray for someone or share your testimony with someone or share the gospel with someone or give a tract to someone. Don't discount those impressions. God knows their heart. God's at work. May God bless you in your journey in personal evangelism.